Hi parents, welcome to the Parents Math Tutor, the only channel where students and parents can get help with today's math homework. Stay tuned and join me for a lesson for parents about the importance of mental math. Let's get started. All right, parents, I'm ready to dive into this video if you are. In this video, you are going to learn why mental math is an important strategy for younger elementary students. We're going to learn what background knowledge students need to be successful with mental math. We're going to learn some vocabulary words that are important to use when you're doing mental math with your children. And then we're going to learn activities that you can do basically since birth to make your child's experience with mental math a little bit easier. So first, what is mental math? Well, it's the ability to keep track of numbers, manipulate those numbers, add and subtract those numbers, and then later in life, multiply and divide in your head, all while not writing anything down. So that means that you're keeping track of everything mentally in your brain. It involves thinking flexibly about numbers, and it is definitely a step that moves from concrete objects, so counting blocks and counting fingers, to abstract thinking, being able to hold on to that information without having anything in front of you to count. Things that are helpful as a foundation before your child starts trying to solve math equations in their head. When they're very little, preschool age, kindergarten age, counting reliably. We call that one-to-one correspondence. So when they can count a set of objects and then they can remember the total. Some kids, if you put 5 blocks in front of them, they'll count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then if you put 2 more blocks down and ask them how many there are now, they'll start all the way over at 1 and say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But if they can remember the total of the first group they had, they don't have to start back at 1. They can start at 5 and then just count on the extra 2 blocks. So counting and remembering the total is very important. There's a skill called subitizing. That means looking at a group of objects and knowing how many there are without counting the items. Dice is a good example of subitizing. When you roll a dice and you roll a 5, you don't have to count the dots. You just know that that's 5. So dice and dominoes are good for this skill. And again, this is pre-K, preschool, maybe starting in kindergarten. These are the things that they would do. Once they get into first grade and second grade, memorizing their math facts is not a bad thing. I know that in education, they go through periods of time where they say, oh, it should be done this way or it shouldn't be done this way. And for a while, in schools at least, math facts weren't enforced. They weren't encouraged. And my personal belief is that you should have your math facts to 20 memorized. It makes the rest of your life easier. And then another thing that's going to be really helpful before mental math will be successful is a strong knowledge of place value. When there's a number in the ones place, knowing how much it's worth. When there's a number in the tens place, knowing how much it's worth. And that way, when they're able to flexibly break apart the numbers in their brain, they're keeping the tens place as a group of tens and the ones place, whatever it's worth. And so those things are super helpful before mental math is going to be successful and fun for your kids. Some words that are academic vocabulary that you don't normally use and your children probably don't normally use in social, everyday talking that have to do with this topic are going to be, mental math. I have to teach my class what that means every year. It means you're doing it in your head without writing anything down. I also talk about their schema. A schema is a part of your brain where you hold information on a topic. And so if they have a schema on math facts, they're going to use that schema when they're trying to perform mental math tasks. When I read word problems to kids out loud that I want them to solve in their head, they might hear words like addition, sum, join, subtraction, difference, separate. Of course, we always talk about place value, the hundreds place, the tens place, the ones place. I really emphasize the value of a number versus the digit in the place. Kids get really stuck on that. If you have the number 432 and you point to the 30 and you ask a child what it is, they're probably going to say 3 if they don't have a good understanding of place value. It's not a 3, it's a 30. And then skip counting. Skip counting is so important for being able to do mental math. It makes counting easier, it makes it faster. And then of course, when we get to multiplication later, that helps so much when you're adding groups of things together. So, since this video is for you, the parent, how can you help? Well, from birth, out loud, in the car, in the kitchen, in the grocery store, count anything and everything out loud. Count the steps from the sidewalk to the doors of the library. Count the Legos that it took to build the tower. Count how many dogs you see when you go on a walk around the neighborhood. Anything. Count anything out loud. And then model remembering how many were in the group. Definitely you can turn everyday tasks into math stories. When I used to cook with my kids when I was little, we did all kinds of math while they were helping me in the kitchen. On long road trips, we would come up with math story games, and my youngest would like to get the hardest multiplication and division stories. And so we would make up stories in the car. And then, of course, we would turn the things we were doing into math stories. If they were earning allowance or if we were collecting toys from around the house, we would just talk about it in a mathematical way. Board games, card games, all kinds of games involve math. That could be Chutes and Ladders. That could be Candyland, because you're having to roll a dice, you're having to subbatize, you're having to count the number of spaces that you jump on the board. Games are so important for math development. Not necessarily video games, but board games where you're having to count, you're having to keep track. Maybe if there's points that they're collecting and they have to add up the points. Games are a great way to give them a foundation of mental math knowledge and place value. Maybe you can let them earn something around the house and then they can keep track of it. And then you can say, you know, I paid you $5 to rake up all the leaves in the backyard. What if I paid you $10 more to walk the dogs every day this week? How much would you get? And let them keep track of it. They'll be excited because they'll be earning something. And it doesn't have to be money. They can earn stickers for a job well done, and then they can get a privilege like staying up late or maybe eating a dessert after dinner or something. But as long as they're earning something and they are responsible for keeping track, that's a really good way to instill mathematics in everyday life. And then, of course, if you hear your child make a mistake when they're doing math, correct them kindly. If they're counting wrong, I know one mistake that's really common is a lot of kids that don't have a good place value. If you ask them what 5 plus 4 is, they'll say 54. And then if you ask them what 100 plus 10 is, they'll say 101, because they don't know where to put the digits because they don't have a strong understanding of place value. So if you hear them make a mistake, correct it and then model it the right way. And then here's some things that you can use to assist with mental math. This gives children something to look at, a visual way to spark their memory when they are trying to do mental math. And this might be a stepping stone in between maybe counting actual blocks in front of them and then just completely doing it in their head. So one wonderful tool that I'm going to use in a video about mental math for students is the hundreds chart. You can also use a number line. You can use a hundreds, tens, ones chart. It's just called a HTO chart. And then also a knowledge of skip counting and a knowledge that the value is not the same as the digit depending on what place you put the number in. These things are super helpful if your kid needs a little scaffolding, if they need a little stepping stone in between concrete math, where they're counting the items in front of them, and abstract math, when they're doing it completely in their head. All right, parents, that's all I have for you today. Now, hopefully you have some ideas of what mental math is, what it looks like, how to get there, fun things you can do with your kids to help them, and look out for some videos I'm going to release for mental math with just your students. I'm going to make those videos just for your students so that they can get on and practice mental math with me. Thanks so much for joining me. Thank you so much for joining me today on the Parents Math Tutor. Please leave a like and a subscribe. Tell others about our channel to help the channel grow so that everybody can have some free math tutoring. See you later. Bye.